Life is a collection of days. How was your day yesterday? How were your days the past week or so? You look at the last month or the last 6 months, you realize most days were average, some days were above average, and some days were below average. But what makes the difference? What is it that makes the difference between our best days and our worst days? Sometimes it's things that are completely out of our control, but sometimes it's things that are within our control. And moving those average days, and the bulk of most people's days are average days, moving those average days to above average days is usually very much within our control. Over time, I've realized that my best days begin with prayer. There are still days, 30 years after I began this habit in my life, there are still days when I get lazy, I procrastinate, I get distracted, I oversleep, I put it off, and I always pay the price. I always pay the price, and sometimes the price is great, and sometimes the price is not that great, but there's always a price, because my best days begin with prayer. I have enough evidence, I have plenty of proof at this point that my best days begin with prayer, and still there's resistance, still there's a struggle sometimes to wrestle myself to live in that wisdom, that has been shared with me. How do your best days begin? And if you try starting each day with prayer and you make some notes about how those days go differently, perhaps you will become convinced, as I have become convinced, that our best days begin with prayer. This is the gift of awareness. It's one of the great spiritual gifts. It's the gift of knowing what's happening within us, knowing what's happening around us, sensing what's happening in other people as we spend time with them, sensing what's happening in their lives. It's this great spiritual awareness. As we start our days with prayer and maybe make a couple of notes about how those days go, we start our days with prayer, make a couple of notes about how do we feel throughout the day? Do we feel more peaceful? Do we feel less anxious? This is how we grow this awareness of how prayer is transforming us little by little. It will transform us whether we're aware of it or not, but one of the great gifts God wants to give us is this awareness, so that we can share this awareness with other people, so that on those days when maybe we don't feel like praying, it's the awareness that, hey, this is a life-changing habit. This makes all the difference in my days. If I do this, my day will go smoother. I'll have more peace. I'll have less anxiety. It's when we have those doubts, it's when we have that resistance, that this awareness becomes a very powerful ally in our lives. And so I simply want to encourage you. I've been challenging you to spend some time each day in prayer. Now I want to encourage you to begin your day with prayer. I realize not everyone's a morning person. Whether you're a morning person or not, I really encourage you, just give it a try. Just give it a try. What do you have to lose? Give it a try for a few days, for a few weeks. Start your day with prayer and see how it begins to transform you. Where is it leading us to? It's leading us to one of those great moments in our lives. It's the moment when you realize once and for all, finally, that a life with prayer is better than a life without prayer.